Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for another virtual cooking class. I'm Laura, and I'm joined here by Johnna, and she's going to be showing us some really awesome dishes today.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Hi, Laura. Nice to have you. Nice to have you on board. I can't talk all of a
Yes.
sudden. So yeah, we're going to be doing some Asian American cuisine today, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about getting veggies in our diet too. Which you guys probably are tired of hearing me say that, but get some veggies and fruit in there. And as always, my name is Johnna Miller, and I am a program assistant with the Ohio SNAP Ed program through Ohio State University and the Ross County Extension Office here in Chillicothe. And always want to point out our websites that we promote, the celebrateyourplate.org, which is a great place for recipes and just cooking nutrition tips, and then the same with the choosemyplate.gov. That's a good place to go to. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box, and Laura will help monitor that, and we'll get started if you're all ready.
All right.
Got a little bit of feedback going on, Laura. I'm not sure where it's coming from.
I will mute myself for now because the focus is on you and what you're teaching us today.
Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so as I said, today we're doing a couple of Asian American recipes, and one of them is an egg drop soup, which we've all had egg drop soup in the restaurants. And I was just telling Laura right before we came live that I always thought it was, it looks like it'd be complicated. How do you get the little pieces of eggs in there? It's not. Super simple. I'll show you that one. And then we're going to learn this one together, guys. This quick pad thai I have never made. So keep your fingers crossed that this goes well. I am really changing this recipe up because I also made some goofs when I went to the grocery store. Our ingredients are some whole wheat thin spaghetti, which I have, some canola oil or vegetable oil, which, I always use olive oil, and then a 24-ounce bag of frozen mixed vegetables. I forgot to buy them. So it's really going to play in well to this lesson anyway. So I've got a combination of vegetables for this. Some light soy sauce, which I have, some water, I always have, some peanut butter, some sugar, half pound of boneless, skinless chicken breast, and then some eggs, and then some chopped peanuts for a garnish on top. And then our ingredients for the egg drop soup is just going to be some chicken broth, some soy sauce, some ground ginger, a little bit of cornstarch, some water, and some eggs. And then you're going to decorate it, finish it off with some sliced green onions and some sesame oil if you like the sesame oil. So we're going to start off today. Let me get you pointed here in the right direction. So I've got my chicken breast here, and as you can see, I bought these in a big tray for the better price, and then I packaged them up individually to use for recipes like this. And this is probably, I'm going to guesstimate, probably about an 8-ounce chicken breast, which is exactly what we need. And I labeled it with chicken breast times 1, so I knew how many was in there, and then the dates that I put it in the freezer, which is February 22nd, so this is still good to go. Now, a lot of times in the past, people would say that, you're supposed to wash your chicken. My mother was a big person. She would not cook chicken unless she washed it. Well, that's really not a good idea because we tend to spread that bacteria that could be in this chicken everywhere, in the sink, on the counter, and everywhere. So do not wash your chicken or any of your meat before you cut it up and prep it to cook. You can just take it right out of the package. You're going to heat it to a temperature that's going to kill any potential bacteria, so you should be good. Now, this here is my most favoritist kitchen utensils, my kitchen shears, and you're going to see I'm just going to cut off this little bit of fat here and make sure we got this as lean as possible and make sure there's no tendons or anything in here. And then I'm just going to start cutting this up. Like I said, the kitchen shears are really good because you can cut things really super quickly. As you can see, I'm just doing this right on the plate. I don't need a cutting board. And you can pretty much control your piece size too. I use these things to cut pizza. I use them to cut chicken, obviously. It's good if you're using fresh herbs, to cut up fresh herbs with your kitchen shears. A good pair of kitchen shears is probably, like I said, an invaluable piece of equipment, especially in my kitchen. I use them for everything. I can never seem to get a bag open, so I always have to have that bag cut open. So I've got several, actually I've got a whole crock full of kitchen shears here that I keep on hand. Now, you always want to cut your meat into uniform sized pieces, which you can see I'm doing here. I'm doing them like probably about 1 inch square, maybe just a little smaller. And it's amazing how far one chicken breast will go into a recipe when you cut it up like this. I'm going to feed probably 3 people with this tonight. So, you know, you can really get more bang for your buck by making your meat stretch this way, by putting it in a mixed dish instead of just trying to make just a chicken breast by itself. Okay, so as you can see there, I got my chicken breast all cut up. Let me step away here and wash my hands real fast. Don't want to spread any more bacteria around than we have to, as I said. Now, I've already got my burner heating up there, and I had preheated my skillet. So I'm going to put probably about a tablespoon of oil in my skillet here, okay? I eyeballed that, as you can tell. And then I'm just going to go ahead and drop my chicken down in there, okay? And it starts sizzling immediately. Good. That means my skillet was good and hot. So I'm going to move that around in my skillet and start getting that cooked up. So next we're going to move on to our vegetables. So let me get these kitchen shears out of the way. That's all the chicken stuff. We don't want to make sure you're not cross-contaminating fresh vegetables and meat. Okay, so I didn't buy the frozen vegetables, okay, but I did happen to have some celery on hand, some green onions, some red pepper, some green pepper, a can of mushrooms, and some frozen carrots. So it works out well. So I've already prepped most of my veggies here. I'm going to go ahead and chop up the rest of this bell pepper here. And you want to cut these into thin slices. So you want them so they're going to cook up pretty quickly. Now, I've already drained and rinsed my mushrooms to get as much salt out of them as possible. And let's cut that membrane out of that pepper right there. We don't want that in there. And I also took my frozen carrots and put them in the microwave and thawed them out really good. That way, these are all going to cook just about the same time, okay? You don't want any hard carrots or mushy mushrooms in there. Okay. Stir the chicken around. It's sizzling up really quick and good here. Now, the recipe is going to tell you to put the frozen vegetables in the microwave and cook them off that way. Well, since I don't have frozen vegetables, I'm just going to actually throw my vegetables right in with the chicken after it's browned up here and cook them down that way. So a pad thai traditionally is going to have probably some bean sprouts, some peppers, some mushrooms, and usually sometimes some snap peas in there. Well, I'm not a big bean sprout girl. I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm going to leave those out, but that's the reason I'm putting the carrots in, just to give it a little more oomph into it. So, okay. So while this chicken is cooking, and before I put those vegetables in there, we need to make a sauce to put this together, okay? So our sauce is going to be, move my vegetables over out of the way and get you back down so you can see what I'm doing. So the sauce is going to consist of about a 1/4 cup of water, a 1/4 cup of peanut butter that I've already measured out. I'm going to put that down into my water. Okay. And then you're going to have to really whisk this together because the peanut butter is actually kind of thick, which is, what's going to make the sauce really good. And then we're also going to put in 2 tablespoons of sugar and blend this all together, okay? Like I said, I've never made this recipe before, guys, so keep your fingers crossed here. Who knows what we're going to have. And here's my sugar, and here's my whisk. And I'm also going to put in the soy sauce as well. I forgot that. So what did I say, 2 tablespoons of sugar? There's 1, 2, and you notice I made those a little scant. I make them just a little less than what you really need. And then 3 tablespoons of light soy sauce. And this is just going to make just a nice thick sauce to put over everything when we're done. Now, there are some recipes for this pad thai that will call for a fish sauce. And fish sauce is actually good. I like the flavor of fish sauce, but I didn't have any on hand. So, and most people will always have peanut butter around. But if you have a nut allergy in your family and cannot do the peanut butter, well, obviously you're going to use the fish sauce, right? So I'm just going to whisk this together, and make a mess. And you just have to really kind of get in there to get that peanut butter to separate. And it'll be a little chunky. I mean, it's not going to be perfectly smooth, but it will smooth out quite a bit. You'll be surprised how easy it does. Okay, my chicken is just about done here. And then we're going to throw our vegetables in there. Okay. All right. Yep, the chicken is all sauteed up. So let me set my sauce over to the side here. And we're going to slide these veggies right in this skillet, okay? So as you can see there, we're going to stir that all together and then let them just saute down until they get to be what they call al dente. Now, when you put all those cold vegetables in there, it's going to you know, cool your skillet down a little bit. So you're going to have to bring the heat back up. Oh, my dog's going to love that. They want a piece of chicken on the floor. He always gets anything that hits the floor. Now, I did forget to mention that I had already boiled up my spaghetti. I know you guys didn't want to sit here and watch me, you know, boil water to boil spaghetti. So I've got it sitting on the side. And anytime you make a pasta where you need to make it ahead of time like that, you're always going to want to drizzle in just a little bit of oil to keep it from sticking together. So I've already got it sitting here on the stove as well. All right, so we're going to saute this down and get the vegetables going pretty good. And then once that happens, we're going to scramble up some eggs in this, and then we will just put in our noodles and our sauce, and then we'll have our pad thai. So while that's going on, I'm going to show you how to get this egg drop soup going, okay? So I've got my chicken broth already. Oops, I forgot to, you know what, guys? I forgot to put in the mushrooms and the carrots. I was so enthused with those peppers, I forgot what else I was doing. Okay. And the peppers are going to be, I mean, the carrots will get pretty soft pretty quick because I did put those in the microwave and get them halfway done before we even put them in here. Because carrots are a vegetable. It usually takes just a little bit to cook because they'll stay hard. All right, so let's get you moved over here so we can see what we're doing here with this chicken broth, okay? That lid's a little warm. Let's get a pot holder. So I've got 4 cups of chicken broth that I've already got heated up. And we're going to, let me get a fork here. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of water and I lost my recipe. And then 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, which is going to make your thickening for your soup. I mean, egg drop soup is not a real thick soup, but don't want it to be to the point where it's just like, you know, thin broth. We want a little bit of thickening there. All right, what I did with my fork, there it is. So you just take your fork and stir this together, and you want to make sure that your broth, as you can see there, you can see the steam coming off of it. It's boiling pretty good there. And I'm just going to add this into my broth, okay? And we're just going to cook that until it starts thickening up just a little bit. And it's not going to be like a gravy thick. It's just going to get kind of the consistency if you've ever made Jell-O. You know how Jell-O will get that little thickness when you add the Jell-O into the water when you first start making it. And that's how it's going to be. It's not like a like gravy type thickness. It's just a kind of a Jell-O type thing. Okay, so this peppers and celery is really starting to smell good over here, guys. All right, so you want to stir that and make sure that it's getting thickened. Now, you actually probably could use flour if you don't have cornstarch, but the only bad thing about flour when you use it for a thickening agent is it tends to sometimes clump. Cornstarch is going to mix up and it's going to be nice and smooth so you don't get clumps into your dish that way. All right. What did I forget to put into my, forgot to put the ginger and the soy sauce into my soup here. So I want a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. And I'm going to eyeball that with my magic hand here that I've been using for about 60 years. So I know that's a 1/4 teaspoon. And then we're going to put in our tablespoon of soy sauce, and that's going to give a little bit more flavor to this, okay? Okay. Okay, Laura, if you want to go ahead and put up my other little slide there, if you don't mind, I'll talk about that for a little bit. Well, she's quick, guys. So I was talking about, getting more vegetables in your diet, and a lot of times people tend to think that you have to have fresh vegetables before you're getting all the nutritional value out of them. And that's not the case. Vegetables in all form are going to have nearly the same nutrients. Now, each one is going to have their strong point and their drawback, but any vegetable is part of a healthy diet. So fresh vegetables in season are going to be, of course, fresh is good. I'm going to be honest with you. I love the taste of fresh vegetables. But, they're going to have their drawback about, you can only buy so much because they'll go bad. So you have to pretty much use them up. You can only buy so much at a time. So that's going to be the drawback as far as using fresh. And sometimes it can be a little more expensive too. Now, frozen is going to be pretty much the exact same nutrient value as what you're going to get with fresh, because what they do is they flash freeze those vegetables. So they are at the point of their peak performance, I guess is a good word. So you're going to get the same nutrition out of them, but you're going to lose some as far as texture. So, you can freeze just about any vegetable besides, probably like your lettuce, greens, and that kind of stuff you can't really freeze. But you can freeze spinach, but you're going to lose when they thaw out. They're not going to have that nice fresh texture. So you're going to lose something that way. So they're good for like dishes like this. They're good for casseroles. They're good for soup, something you're not going to worry about having that nice, fresh, crisp crunch to. So, and they're going to be a lot less expensive than a fresh. And they got the factor that you can keep them in the freezer for months and they're going to be good. Now, canned is going to be your cheapest way to have vegetables always on hand. And the main drawback with canned is another with the texture, and a lot of times you have to be really careful about the sodium content. So you always hear me talk about with the mushrooms, I rinsed them really well and got all that brine off of there and took a lot of the sodium out of that way. So, but you're going to have sometimes, your shelf life is going to be at least a year, maybe longer on cans, so you can always have them on hand. Cost-wise, they're going to be a fraction of the cost of what fresh and frozen are as a general rule. But you're not going to have that, that crisp. It's going to be a softer texture, so you're not going to have that crisp, crunchy carrot or whatever you want to have there. So, it's going to be different that way. But nutritionally, they are going to give you basically the same thing. So there is no such thing as a bad vegetable, no matter how it's prepared, unless you're coating it in like a heavy sauce or you're putting more bad in than what you have for good. But it's always going to be the same nutritionally. Okay, Rachel, if you want to put it back on me now here. So our soup is starting to bubble there a little bit. I wish I could get this camera up higher so you guys could really see down in there. But it is starting to bubble up. So it's going to be just about perfect. And I'm going to let my vegetables keep going here for a minute. So for our egg drop soup, let me back up here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take a couple of eggs, and I'm going to just crack them into this measuring cup. Playing basketball with eggshells in my sink. Did y'all hear that? I made 2 points. Okay, so I'm just going to take these and I'm going to scramble them up in this cup. Now you want to make sure that this broth is bubbling and nice and hot, because you want these eggs, once we put them in there, we want them to string. So you get that nice little egg drop. And now you can do it the hard way if you really, really, really want to make sure that they're nice and stringy, and drop them in by just a little bit with your fork, which is going to take some time. Or you can just take your measuring cup here and just start stringing it real quick and stirring. Make sure you're stirring, so you're going to get those pieces and chunks of egg, and you want to make sure that you don't dump it all in at once, because if you dump it all at once, you're just going to get like a cream. And you also want to make sure that that broth has got enough time to come back up to heat, which means it's going to cook that egg almost instantly. So you're getting your egg drops there. Okay, can you see how that's stringing in there? All right, so there we go. There's the egg drop soup. I'm just going to let that sit there and cook for just a few more minutes to make sure those eggs are up to, get them up to 165 degrees to be safe. And our vegetables and our chicken are ready. So we're going to scramble up the other eggs that I've got out here, and we're going to put those right into our skillet with our vegetable and chicken mixture here. I didn't realize how many eggs I had in this. Okay, let me turn that soup off. All right, so there's 1 egg, 2 eggs, 3 eggs. And we're going to scramble these up just like we did for our soup. And then we're just going to take these. We're going to get all of our veggies and our chicken stirred around, get it out of the corners of the pan here. Look how pretty that is, guys. Isn't that pretty? And then we're just going to put these in and just quickly scramble them in with the veggies and the chicken. So that means you're going to just stir it around. Give it a chance to quit sizzling. And I'm going to stir up my sauce here a little bit too. Okay, so let them sit there for a few minutes so you're getting those big, nice egg chunks in there, okay? Now I am using a non-stick pan here, so you don't have to be so careful. But if you're using cast iron or something, you're really going to watch because you'll scorch this pretty quickly. So make sure that, and now when you're cooking anything with eggs in it or meat, you're going to make sure that you're getting it up to 165 degrees. And usually when an egg is solid, we're pretty confident that it's going to be at the 165 degrees. But just for that safe, summer's coming, guys, we got to make sure that we're using all of our food safety tips and keeping everything nice and safe for everybody. That egg drop soup looks really good. Can you see that in there? We're going to garnish that up with a little bit of green onion. That's going to be nice. Okay, so our eggs are pretty much fried up, so I'm going to stir in the noodles. And this makes a lot of food, guys. Oops, you didn't see me do that. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn it back around. So I'm just going to stir in my spaghetti that I already had pre-cooked. And we'll get this heated through.
That looks so good.
It smells amazing. I was really hungry until I started smelling this cooking. So yeah, it's... And I really like when you put red peppers in anything, it just makes it pretty. And I'm a very visual person, so the prettier it is, the more likely I am to really enjoy it. Okay, so I've got that heated through, and now I'm just going to take my sauce here. There's my spatula. And I'm going to just pour that over top. And like I said, there's going to be a little bit of chunks of peanut butter in there, so you're going to make sure that you heat this through and get that all heated through real so it's nice and smooth. Oh, there we go. Now it really smells good. All right. So let's get a plate and a bowl. And we're going to get this set up, guys. I got way more dishes than I got counter space here tonight for some reason. Okay, so here's our egg drop soup. Put some of that in a bowl. And then we're going to put some of our pad thai. Make sure you get all that chicken and veggies and all that goodness in there. And then we're going to garnish this off with, I've got just a little bit of chopped peanuts here. So I'm going to sprinkle some of those on top of my pad thai. And then I've got a few of the tops of the green onions that I'm going to sprinkle on top of my egg drop soup. And there you go, guys. Just as pretty and just as good as anything we're going to get in a restaurant. And what did it take? about 25 minutes. So what do you think, Rachel?
I think that looks awesome, and I love that it has such a variety of ingredients. So you have vegetables. If you're a noodle person, you really like your noodles, and I like that it's something that you probably have tried at a restaurant and thought, oh, I could never make that, but it was so easy. It looked so easy.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I'm impressed with this pad thai. Like I said, I have never made this before, and that went together pretty quickly. I mean, factor in I had maybe 5 minutes in chopping those veggies up. But if you were using the frozen vegetables, you could just pop those in the microwave while you're boiling your spaghetti, and you wouldn't even have that time. So that would all be done. So maybe start to finish, as the recipe's written, 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
and there looks like there's how many people did you say you could serve?
I think that the pad thai will serve 6, and the egg drop will serve 4. So,
wow. Yeah.
But like I said, if you have a peanut allergy in your family, you may want to invest in the fish sauce. Fish sauce is not that expensive. I just didn't have any on hand, and you can pick it up along with like the soy sauces and that kind of stuff in the grocery. So it's real easy to find. And if you like the sesame oil, you can also put a little bit of sesame oil on top of your egg drop soup, which makes it have a little bit more of that Asian flavor to it as well. Really good meal here, guys. We got 3 servings of vegetables at least. We've got 2 servings of protein with the chicken and the eggs. No dairy in here, but we got the whole wheat pasta, so there's our grain. So we've got 4 of the 5 food groups. Can't beat it.
Awesome. And how would you say if someone wanted to remake this in another day, could they just put it in the microwave, or should they heat it on this?
Well, with no experience with the pad thai, I would assume, yeah. It's going to be like any other pasta dish. I mean, pasta is really good, and your veggies may not have the little al dente crunch to them that you're going to want the second day, but they'll still taste well. And the egg drop soup reheats pretty well too. And like you said, always make sure you're getting all your leftovers in the refrigerator by 2 hours. Don't leave them out any longer than that. And I'm in a hurry to get off here and eat now. Well, it smells amazing.
Susan in the comments agrees with me that it looks delicious. I'm sure we're both jealous that you have it ready for you.
I wish I could share. I wish I did. I really wish I could.
Yeah, and I say I am someone who doesn't have a lot of cooking skills, and as I was watching it, I was thinking I could do that. I could do that. And I love your point about the differences between the frozen vegetables, because I always feel bad for using frozen, but it's like you said, any vegetable is going to be good.
That's right. And nutritionally, they are just about the same. It's just going to be, personal preference as far as textures, and that is what you're going to lose or gain, whatever way you go with it. So, get them veggies in, 3 servings a day, and you're good to go.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I appreciate everybody watching today, and I will be back next week. And I think next week will be the last time I'm going to be with y'all for about a month. I think we're going to take off for a little bit. The library has a busy month in May, and so do I as well. So we'll be back in June, but I'll have something good next week, I promise.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure if anyone has any questions, they can contact you. And I'm sure we have the recipes, all the information linked easily below so people can find it.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.